There is a walkway not far from here that I call Consumption Canyon. Each wall, the walls each side, reach high up to the high-rise buildings, and along the walkway there are numerous food outlets. And from 11 o'clock in the morning till at least 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that canyon is crowded with consumers. You could join the long queue outside Kenny's and you can have your sandwich on your roll and in your hand within 20 seconds. And I have no stakes in Kenny's, but they're a great outlet. Chicken, tomato, cucumber, ham, anything you like, there it is. In the Old Testament faith, if you like, in the old religion, in the old faith, it was often said Jesus died for us. But it is obvious that not many people in the 21st century society accept that statement as very meaningful to them. Not intelligent, not a fact, not a belief that they adhere to. But if I take away my chicken sandwich, I have no doubt that on that day, as on every day, thousands of chickens die for us. So also with the cattle. An abattoir on one of the rims of this city that's the word they use, process 5 million cattle every year. And that particular abattoir assures me that they exercise careful checks to ensure that those cattle die a properly supervised death. Some of you know Dr. Rodney Syme. He was here just the other evening, a Melbourne urologist and a leader in the physician-assisted death voluntary euthanasia society. He wrote his book, three years ago, which he called A Good Death. It is chiefly about helping people who are suffering terribly at the end of their life, helping them to die a good death and not a terrible death. We all want to die a good death. But what about the animals? The new faith that I advocate says animals and humans are woven through and through into the same fabric of life. The book of Ecclesiastes that I have here repeats again and again how we're all part of the one breath of life, how we all live, how we all die, and how we might also live together. So there must be a continual conversation between all parties and peoples involved to proclaim that we are all part of a caring society. Sometimes we don't care. Sometimes we don't care for humans, and we are inclined to bury our heads in the sand as far as the animals are concerned. Jeffrey Mason, in his book, When Elephants Weep, says there is a widespread bigotry to the idea that animals have feelings, have emotions. Sometimes we don't think they do. But have you not seen fear in the eyes of an animal? Have you not seen excitement and joy? Have you not seen gentleness and care in your animals? Or you say that's because they're our pets. But we don't see anything like that in the truckloads of sheep on their way to the market, nor in the flocks in the paddocks being chased by the dogs. Of course, we watch on television those fishing boats in the North Sea, and we see them loading the holds and the containers with tons upon tons of crustaceans, crabs and shrimps and prawn, all the rest. And we say, they don't have a brain, do they? No feelings, no emotions. We do know this. They contribute huge pleasure to our dining room table. But if we do not be careful, our society will eat them out of house and home, as it were. Many parts of the oceans are simply being fished out. So often human beings count themselves as above the animals, above the fish, above it all. With Jeremy Bentham back in 1789, we might say they can't reason. They can't talk. Not like us, they can't do that. But then Bentham goes on to say, but can they suffer as we suffer? A caring society is not an ignorant society, though often we are just that. We forget that a caring society needs to be an informed society. A caring society is not a society with all the blinds drawn. A caring society takes hold of those themes of St. Michael, in fact, to reduce violence and to find ways to minimize pain and suffering in every species. We often use the phrase, it's as dead as a dodo, without realizing how come the dodo is dead. That bird was made extinct way back in the year 1700. Have you ever thought how that happened? And how we continue to make these things happen? We heard it at breakfast today. We read that something like this occurred in one of the Mauritian islands. The logging companies cleared all the ebony trees for firewood. Then they tried to regrow the trees, but the trees wouldn't grow again. They couldn't thrive. They had lost the vital animals that ate the fruit and dispersed their seeds. So in the year 2000, scientists put 4 giant tortoises onto the island. And in 2009, I think the number had grown to something like 20 tortoises. Were rambling the island, eating the fruits, and leaving behind more than 500 dense patches of seedlings. The old faith religion has been so wedded to the Old Testament at the beginning, the Genesis idea of the domination of man over all creatures and all creation, that even today amongst religious people and atheists, there is the stark indifference, often the arrogant, or is it the hostile indifference, to how all life, all feature, all good faith depends on our interdependence. We are an interdependent society, if only we could stop to realize it. And there's a third thing. We frequently hear people speak of how humans have behaved like animals. Dostoevsky, in his book, The Brothers Karamazov, he said, no animal could be so cruel as a man, so artfully, so artistically cruel. And over the years, we have used the most shocking physical and psychological measures to torture fellow human beings. No animal would behave like this. Jacques Ellul, in his book on violence, draws out the laws of violence. I've spoken about them here before. And the first law is truly self-evident. Violence begets violence. The first law of violence. That is to say, if you use violence, expect it to be returned. Maybe not in the same way. History shows that humans believe that you must increase your violence to win, and we don't realize that the returning violence may not be in terms of how much, but how subtle it may be in its return. How we can paralyze a nation, as we saw just the other day. the whole nation of America, on one day in September, a week or so ago, spent millions of dollars on fear. They feared something dreadful might happen. So who wins the battle when we've become victims of such fear? Old religion, old faith has called on God to save us. God will save us. We sing, God save our gracious Queen, but we know that queens and kings are like the rest of us, subject to mortality. Of course, we sing that anthem to wish the monarch long life, long reign, long happiness. But the old faith and the old religion has often stopped exercising an active intelligence. So we look for an intelligent society. We don't leave our intelligence in the car park when we come to church. Here, I hope. The new faith is vital to the very way life will be lived. It needs everyone's intelligence for a better life. In fact, my book that we launched the other evening is called just that, Discover a New Faith, Energy for a Better Life. And I'm happy to be able to sign it for you later on today. I do not reap any rewards for this book. All the proceeds will go to our well-being program. So I commend it to you to ensure that more people can be part of the understanding of what this new faith is about. We advocate the need to ensure that a healthy narcissism, self-love, does not become a confused, confusing, self-consuming narcissism. We need to ensure that our everyday hubris does not become an unbalanced hubris, that we cannot intelligently recognize the pathways to our well-being. We need an intelligent society. Fourth, we look for a healing society. Some of you know that I am at present trying to establish a foundation fund to help troubled children of the kindergarten years. It is reported that the number of traumatized kids under 12 at any time may be anywhere between 300 and 600,000. Did you get that figure? 300,000, 600,000. Take your pick. It's huge. I'm interested in the kindergarten kids. Some people say they're too young to be traumatized, but they are traumatized. Abuse of various kinds in our sophisticated society. Domestic violence in our affluent society. Losses and damage of various kinds in our have-it-all society. The cost of these troubles to our Australian society runs into $20 billion. We need a healing society because so many young lives are wasted into years of destruction and violence and the half-lived existence. I see it every second day, I should say, in the adults. In the others, half-lived existence because of some trauma way back, even in their earliest years, never resolved properly. One man had what I called, and what we all call, a near-death experience. It was terrifying. Although it was long since in the past, he remained terrified that it would occur again. And there'd been several specialists who all assured him correctly, I believe, that it was in the past and it would not occur again. But he was unconvinced, and the fear was in the present every day. When he came to me, I recommended a different form of therapy. He was desperate. But would it work? On his fourth visit to me, he tumbled a great many things around in his mind, and then he fell silent. And he looked right into my eyes, and he said, "Do you think I'm a better man now that I've been through that?" I remained silent. His stare met my stare. And then he uttered a loud expletive, and he said, "I've never thought of this before. You think I'm a better man, don't you? Because of what's happened. You think I'm a better man." And tears started to roll down his face. And he said, "I am a better man." I often wonder if people who have been through a terribly distressing experience, if they could realize for all that, they are now better people. Would they then become part of the healing society, knowing that they have been healed? We look for a society, a healing society. Oh yes. But we also look for a society, an ethically challenged society, and ethically challenged. In the fairy tale of Jack and the Beanstalk, you remember it, I think, Jack and his mother faced that ultimate poverty. And the mother sent him off to sell their remaining asset, their cow. And along the road, he meets a man. Was he a con man? What was he? But he offered him a handful of magic beans for the cow. And he took the beans, infuriated his mother, and she threw the beans out the window, you remember? Only to find the next morning a huge beanstalk had grown there where the beans had fallen. And there was the encounter then with the giant. And Jack escaping with the giant's harp, was it? And then the golden egg, or the hen or the goose that laid the golden egg. And then he had to face the issue whether he needed to kill the giant to save his own life. And we're left to ponder, aren't we? Whether it is worth it. I ask you then to contemplate this whole story of Jack and the Beanstalk. He had to take the ogre's wealth, but not become like him. He had to achieve his goal without being brutal or cruel. We all could perhaps enjoy the outcome of a magical life, but not forget where the magic began and where it came from. Compare that with Orwell's story of Animal Farm, in which the pigs take over the farm, become like the worst human beings, and eventually we can't distinguish the humans from the animals. All of them descend into the worst expression of their life. And the story seems to be holding up a mirror in front of us, holding up a mirror to show that there are magical possibilities given to us in life, but we can so easily sell out and forget or scoff at the gift that was given to us and become part of a dreadful society. This is the challenge of an ethical society. Professor Singer, Peter Singer, asked the question. Where is his book? He asked the question. And the title of his book, How Are We to Live? How are we to live? The ethical society. Perhaps that would lead some to revoke their membership of that disconnected society and become members of a celebrative society. We can do with less of our ugly negativity. We can do with less of our daily unpleasant hostility. We can do with less of our unnecessary griping. And we can get a glimpse, just a glimpse, of what it means to celebrate and become part of a celebrating life. But we need a new faith for that. Do you know that? We need a new faith. See how the animals contribute to our lives. Matt Weinstein and Luke Barber, in their book, What Your Dog Can Teach You About Living a Happy Life, wrote this: for a dog, no event is too small to celebrate. My dogs eat the same meal at approximately the same time every night. But the way my dogs celebrate this impending meal makes one think that it is the greatest feast day of the year. Compare that with human beings who come to the table and say, "What, this again?" Our lives could be filled with so much more joy and happiness if we could learn each day that we have an opportunity to celebrate. We are all blessed with this remarkable experience of life, and that alone surely is something to celebrate. Celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. I put before you 6 possibilities today. 6. Here they are. We can become part of a caring society. We need to. We are all part of an interdependent society. We need to become more part of the intelligent society. 4th, a healing society. We need the healing society. And 5th, we are part of an ethically challenging society. Every day, ethical choices are before us. The question is, how are we to live? Well, don't forget to celebrate. Become part of a celebrating society. Would you please stand?